It's funny because people talk about cyber attacks as some, evil genius sitting in a bunker somewhere and planning and plotting and stealing. But, in many cases, you have these hacktivist groups whose sole aim is to raise publicity or awareness about a specific cause. Well, what better way to do that than to hijack a Twitter account of a news outlet? And we've already seen that in 2013. It was quite big. And when we talk about hacking, in many cases, it's just, either guessing a password or sending somebody a phishing email, getting them to click onto something. So we've seen social media being used as a tool to amplify specific events or specific causes. But also, social media accounts are being used as a means as a social engineering channel. So, historically, it was email was used as the single social media channel. Spear phishing channel, but now we're seeing direct messages, we're seeing fake LinkedIn requests and Facebook requests and so forth as well. It's going to continue, it's going to grow, and as we begin to get more reliance on things like social media, what better way to manipulate financial markets than make fake announcements? And we've already seen that in the last year. It is almost impossible to completely eliminate being coerced into social engineering attacks. And what we're talking about goes back way before, we got our first computers, way before, social media and so forth. I mean, the film Catch Me If You Can, where Frank Abagnale uses social engineering as a technique. The thing with social engineering is it taps into the subconscious. So it's not blackmail, it's not bribery. It kind of tries to hack the human operating system. And, the psychologist Cialdini talks about 6 levers that you can use to influence people to do something you wish. And, even myself, I mean, every single person is victim to social engineering almost every single day. When you walk down the high street and you rush out and you buy that sofa because, its sale's going to be ending next week. Or, when you write a LinkedIn recommendation to somebody because you got a recommendation yourself and you feel obligated to do that. Social engineering is around us every single day. And its role within cyber crime or spear phishing and so forth is growing and growing and growing. I mean, one could argue one of the early examples was the Anna Kournikova virus, trying to manipulate people into clicking something. But we're beginning to see that. We're beginning to see things like scarcity levers being used. We're beginning to see things like liking being used. I mean, Kevin Mitnick wrote a whole book about how he was social engineering people to get access to data. So it's impossible to completely eliminate people falling foul of social engineering, and unfortunately it's a case of repetition. So repeating the message and getting people to understand it, and repeating. There's no silver bullet for this, unfortunately. Sure. People talk about cybercrime being a new area of crime. It's not. We have traditional crime, and what we've seen is an evolution of traditional crime. So I remember somebody said to me, there is no such thing as cybercrime. And I said, well, what do you mean? They said, well, tell me one crime that existed that's only come about through cyber. And I said, well, what about DOS attacks, denial of service attacks? And they said, well, we had DOS attacks before. People just used to go in and smash the windows. Yeah. So the digital element of crime has simply amplified and made things easier and allows the ability to be able to automate.